Hi, beautiful people. It's another wonderful day, and I welcome you to another exciting episode of Handbag Celebrity Hour, where we discuss everything trending on social media. Any social related issue on social media, of course, this is where we discuss. My name is Adam, your host for today. Our show is proudly sponsored by FK Farms. They are the people responsible for renting lands for people who want to go into farming. When you need a knowledge about farming, whatever you want to do on your farmland, kindly contact FK Farms, and then they will attend to you. They assist you in anything you want concerning farming. I always sit here and talk about it. Don't say I haven't said it. So just pick the numbers on your screen and then call them. They will attend to you. Moving on to our first story for the day.
Teacup. Small, simple, ceramic. The kind offered to guests in meetings. The kind that carries respect in silence. But this one almost carried death. President Ibrahim Troere was in a private meeting at a military base outside Ouagadougou. Nothing big. Just a quiet gathering of senior officers and advisors to discuss logistics for an upcoming operation in the east. Calm, casual, nothing unusual. They sat in a circle under a mango tree. Cups of warm, spiced tea were passed around by a soldier in plain uniform. Troere took the cup, as always, with a smile. He nodded in thanks, but then he paused. He didn't sip, not yet. His eyes flicked toward the server. A new face, young, nervous. He held the cup in both hands, gently, like it was glass. Across the circle, Colonel Yaya Konate, an old officer known for his sharp mind and cold eyes, took his first sip quickly, almost too eagerly. He looked at the president and said, "Please, drink, sir. The tea is fresh." But Troere didn't move. He smiled. Then slowly, he placed the cup down on the small wooden table beside him. The air around them shifted, slightly. Not enough for a normal person to notice. But Captain Zongo, sitting in the back like always, saw the signal. Troere had trained with wolves. He knew how betrayal smelled. 2 hours earlier, inside the palace, Troere had received an anonymous tip, a small note left on his desk while he was in a meeting. "Watch your tea. Today, they will test your trust." No name, no clue, just that one warning. He didn't ignore it. Instead, he played along. He stuck to the schedule, traveled to the base, sat among men he had known for years, and waited for someone to show their hand. And now, as the untouched cup sat between them, something was very, very wrong. Troere looked straight at Colonel Konate and said, "You know, I always find it interesting. How many things can hide inside something as small as a cup?" Konate gave a tight smile. "That's the beauty of tea, sir." "Or the danger," Troere replied. Then he stood up slowly, and the tone of the entire meeting changed. President Ibrahim Troere stood tall, his hands behind his back, eyes steady on Colonel Konate. Everyone else at the meeting froze. The air turned thick. The birds nearby had gone silent, as if they, too, were waiting for what came next. Troere didn't raise his voice. He didn't pull rank. He just asked a question, quiet but sharp like a blade. "Colonel, do you trust the people who poured this tea?" Colonel Konate blinked. His lips tightened. "Of course, Mr. President." "Good," Troere said. He turned to one of the aides and pointed to the untouched cup. "Then please, drink mine." The aide reached for the cup, confused. Konate's eyes widened. "No, wait," he said quickly. "We don't want to mix cups. There could be hygiene." Troere raised his hand. "Hygiene, Colonel, or poison?" The circle of officers went silent. You could hear the wind brushing against the trees. Konate tried to recover. "Mr. President, I assure you no one here would—" But Troere was already walking away from the table. He pulled out a small walkie-talkie and spoke 2 words, "Bring him." Within seconds, 2 soldiers came forward, escorting the young tea server, the nervous soldier in plain uniform, his hands tied behind his back. He looked terrified. His mouth was shaking. One of the president's bodyguards placed a small pouch on the table. Inside it, a tiny plastic vial found hidden in the server's sock. The label on it read in tiny writing, VXT42, a slow-acting neurotoxin, enough to kill a man within minutes, colorless, tasteless, odorless. And now, sitting inside a teacup meant for the lion of Burkina Faso. The president turned to the circle of officers. "I've led soldiers into real battles," he said calmly, "and I've buried brothers in war. But this, betrayal from inside our own house, is worse than any enemy." Then he looked at Konaté again. "You invited me here. You arranged the tea, and you told me to drink first." Konaté stood up slowly, his face pale. "This is madness." But Captain Zongo was already moving. Within seconds, Konaté was surrounded. Troere stepped closer, face to face. "Did you think I wouldn't feel it, Colonel? You think I made it this far by drinking every cup handed to me?" Konaté said nothing. Troere leaned in. "Men like you don't want power to serve. You want it to sell." Then he gave the order, "Take him in." "No public arrest. We're not giving them a show. We're giving them silence." As the colonel was led away, the rest of the officers sat in disbelief. The poison had failed. But the message was clear. The lion had been tested. And he did not blink. Back at the palace, the traitor was locked in a cold underground room, the kind where the walls heard every word, but never spoke. Colonel Konaté refused to talk. He denied everything, claimed he had nothing to do with the young tea server, said he didn't know about any poison, that he was being framed. But President Ibrahim Troere wasn't interested in shouting matches. He believed in evidence, quiet, sharp, and solid. Captain Zongo walked into the interrogation room with a small black notebook. It had been found hidden in the soldier's bag. The tea server who nearly served death in a cup. Zongo flipped it open, showing it to Konaté. "This is your handwriting," he said. "We checked." Inside the pages were coded names, meeting dates, and strange payment lists, including a large transaction just days before the attempted poisoning. But one name appeared more than any other. Le Chacal. The Jackal. Troere was watching from behind the mirror. He turned to his aide and asked, "Have we heard this name before?" The aide nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. It came up once in an intercepted call 3 months ago, linked to foreign intel." Troere's expression hardened. "So this goes beyond Konaté." This was no lone wolf. There was a bigger hand behind the cup. Later that evening, Troere called a silent emergency meeting with only his most trusted men, including Zongo, 2 counterintelligence officers, and 1 civilian cyber expert who had worked on decoding files in the previous coup attempt. They gathered in the underground war room. Zongo laid the notebook on the table. "This name, Le Chacal, he's the handler. He gives the orders. The soldier was just a tool. Konaté was the delivery system." Troere nodded. "So what we need is the source." The cyber expert worked fast, connecting phone records, digital trails, satellite pings. Most of the lines had been wiped clean, but one message stood out. It was a burner phone used only once. The text said, "Pour la tasse, demain, il ne verra rien." For the cup, tomorrow, he will see nothing. Sent from a location less than 2 kilometers from the French consulate in Ouagadougou. Zongo looked up. "So he's still here?" Troere folded his arms. "If he's hiding in this city, then we are not hunting a ghost. We are hunting a man." And the hunt had just begun. The game had changed. No longer was it just about catching a corrupt colonel. Now, they were chasing the man behind it all, Le Chacal, the shadowy figure who gave the orders and vanished without a face. But Ibrahim Troere wasn't going to wait for another attack. This time, he would strike first. The cyber expert traced the burner phone's final signal to a luxury apartment building in Ouaga, 2000. a quiet, upscale area known for diplomats, foreign business workers, and international aid contractors. The building had no cameras in the hallways. Too convenient. "Whoever this jackal is," said Zongo, "he has protection. He knows how to hide." Troere leaned over the table in the war room. "Then we don't search for him like soldiers. We smoke him out. Like a thief." He approved a silent plan. Operation Glass Eye. No uniforms, no sirens, no announcements. Just shadows watching shadows. They placed watchers around the apartment block, disguised as cleaners, fruit sellers, delivery boys. One soldier posed as a building repairman and got inside, planting tiny cameras in hallway corners and vents. Then, on day 3, they saw him. A tall, pale-skinned man with a sharp jaw and dark glasses, clean-cut, calm, and always wearing a hat. He didn't match any official embassy staff, but he had a key to apartment 3B, the same location that matched the phone signal. He was careful. Never left at the same time, never used the same car twice. But he made one mistake. He ordered food. Troere smiled when he heard it. "Good, let's deliver it ourselves." That night, Zongo dressed as the delivery man, a bag of food in one hand, a tiny listening device in the other. When the door opened, the man stared hard at him. Cold. Sharp. He said nothing. Just paid in cash, took the food, and closed the door. But it was enough. The device had recorded everything. His voice, his movements, even the way he walked. Back in the war room, the voice was run through software. A match popped up. Alexandre Morel, a French intelligence officer linked to activities in West Africa, officially retired, but known in classified circles as Le Chacal. It was him, the man who gave the order to kill President Ibrahim Troere over tea. But arresting him wouldn't be easy. He had no diplomatic badge, but if they captured him in public, foreign powers could scream kidnapping. If they raided the apartment, he could disappear in seconds. His exit routes were likely covered. Troere thought for a long moment. Then he said, "Let's give him what he wants." Zongo raised an eyebrow. "Sir?" "We tell him, I'm holding a private dinner. Invite only. Important guests. He'll try again." Zongo nodded slowly. "And when he comes?" Troere's eyes narrowed. "We end it." The trap was set. President Ibrahim Troere announced a quiet, high-level dinner to be held inside the presidential villa. Just a few trusted guests. No press, no public list. Word spread quietly through the usual channels, just loud enough for a certain someone to hear. Zongo and the team kept eyes on apartment 3B. They didn't see Morel leave, but they did see his phone activate again. A new burner. This one pinged a message across the city. "La fenêtre est ouverte. Dernier service ce soir." The window is open. Final service tonight. They knew what it meant. Another assassination attempt was coming. But this time, Troere was not the target. He was the bait. Inside the palace kitchen, the entire catering team had been replaced by counterintelligence officers in chef uniforms. Every utensil, every dish, every cup, checked and marked. Hidden microphones were placed under the dining table, in the flower vases. Even inside the salt shakers, no movement would go unnoticed. At 7:30 p.m., the dinner began. 4 guests sat at the table, all carefully chosen, loyal, silent, aware of the mission. Troere sat at the head, calm, dressed not in full military uniform, but in a modest traditional tunic. He didn't want to look like a target. Zongo was in the surveillance room, eyes on every angle. "No movement from apartment 3B, he whispered into the mic. "No entry breach detected." But then, it happened. A waiter appeared with a tray of drinks. He wasn't one of their men. Zongo froze. "Who is that?" "That's not one of ours." The cameras zoomed in. The man moved differently. His face was calm, but his right hand trembled, just slightly. He set the tray down and stepped back. Troere raised his glass, but did not drink. He looked the man in the eye and said, "Would you like to share a drink with your president?" The man hesitated. Troere stood up slowly. "You've been running for a long time, Alexandra, but you made one mistake." The entire room moved in an instant. Chairs scraped. Guards burst in. The man tried to grab a pin from inside his sleeve. Something small, something sharp. But Zongo was already behind him. In seconds, he was pinned to the floor. "No gun?" Troere said, walking over. "Just poison again? You really thought the same trick would work twice?" Morel, Le Chacal, looked up, his face tight with rage. "You've made enemies you cannot fight," he hissed. Troere crouched beside him. "I'm not fighting them," he said. "I'm outliving them." He stood and gave the command. "No press. No parade. Fly him out tonight to the deepest cell we have. This is not a show. This is a message." Across the city, nothing looked different. But something huge had happened. A second attempt on the president's life had failed. The man behind it all, caught. Silenced. But Troere wasn't finished. He knew this was not just about poison or politics. This was a warning. Someone out there is willing to kill for power. But now they knew. Troere doesn't drink from any cup, without checking what's in it. The silence after the storm was almost louder than the storm itself. No announcements were made. No photos were leaked. The man called Le Chacal, the ghost behind the poison, had vanished into a hole so deep the world would never find him again. But President Ibrahim Troere knew the danger hadn't passed. He sat alone in his office the next morning, holding the same ceramic cup from the first attempt. Washed clean now, empty, but still heavy with meaning. He thought about the young soldier who carried the poison without understanding it. He thought about Colonel Konate, once a man of honor, now waiting for justice in chains. And he thought about the people, the millions who trusted him without knowing how many nights he walked the edge of death. Then came a knock. It was Captain Zongo. "Sir," he said, "the military academy is ready for your address." Troere nodded. That afternoon, Troere walked into the courtyard of Burkina Faso's National Military Academy. Hundreds of young cadets stood in formation. They had heard the whispers. Something dangerous had happened, something big, but they didn't know the full truth. Troere stood on the stage, microphone in front of him, no paper in hand. He didn't need notes. "Some of you may not understand the weight of the uniform you wear," he began. "You think it gives you power, but it gives you responsibility." He raised the cup. "This cup almost ended my life, not because of the tea inside, but because of the trust I placed in the wrong hands." He paused. The cadets were frozen. Some had wide eyes. Others clenched their fists. "You will one day guard this nation, but guarding it is not just about guns. It is about honor, about knowing when to speak and when to say no, even when money is offered, even when pressure comes from abroad." He looked across the sea of young faces. "I did not survive because I am clever. I survived because I never forgot one truth. A nation is only as strong as the loyalty of its lowest guard." He turned to Zongo and raised the cup toward him. "This is no longer a symbol of death. This is now a symbol of survival." He placed it on a stone pedestal beside the Academy flag. "Let it remind you," he said, "that even the smallest item can carry betrayal or courage. Choose what you carry." The cadets saluted. Some wiped tears. That evening, Troere sat quietly at the palace rooftop, watching the sunset bleed across the sky. He knew this would not be the last attempt. There would be more jackals, more poison. But each time, they would find the lion waiting, not because he wanted war, but because he was ready to die standing, rather than live kneeling. And so, the cup remained, not in a museum, not in his home, but in the hands of the next generation, a symbol of vigilance, of survival, and of one man's refusal to be broken.